My friends, today we have over 20 minutes of obscure and useless Mario Kart 64 lore and miscellaneous trivia. And when I say we're going obscure, I mean it. You already know stuff like that Kamek was a character in early builds of the game, later to be replaced with Donkey Kong. We're gonna get much more obscure than that, so get comfortable, pour yourself a warm beverage, and enjoy this deep look into the 90s nostalgia of the mystical Mario Kart 64.
Here we go!
But first, a word from our friends over at Opera GX. Opera GX is on a mission to get people to break up with their old, boring browsers and have fun while doing it. Opera GX isn't for everyone, but if you're a real gamer, then it's time to stop browsing like a lame duck and get Opera GX. Opera GX offers you with endless customization, so much customization it can be overwhelming. With GX mods, you install tons of great templates to fit just the vibe you are going for with your browser. Check out this comfy lo-fi mod I installed here. Very nice. Or this epic cyberpunk mod with cool sounds when you type and scroll pages. Or I like this GX Boy mod, throwing back to the nostalgic days of Game Boy, just like we do on this very channel. You can pick many of the mods added to Opera GX, or create your own that suits you best. The gx.mods section truly has it all. Opera GX enhances performance on your PC with the GX control panel, allowing you to limit the CPU and RAM you're willing to let the browser use. Yeah, let's not let it use 64 gigs of RAM, and we'll lower the CPU too. And it has an import tool so you can quickly import your settings from a previous browser like history, bookmarks, and cookies, which makes switching over a breeze. Opera GX is also compatible with every Google Chrome extension. So try it out yourself, baby. Download Opera GX from the link in the description now, and get to customizing and humming along with a browser built for the modern gamer. That's Opera GX from the link in the description. Thanks, Opera GX, and now back to the rest of our video. Let's start by talking about a definitive pioneer when it came to glitch hunting and shortcuts in Mario Kart 64, the one and only Shadow of Myles. Strewn throughout his legendary YouTube channel, which is still up to this day, he has tons of strange clips of various ongoings and oddities in the game, but here are two I particularly love. The Bat Box Stuck is a clip where he gets stuck in the bat box on Banshee Boardwalk. You know, the one that the bats emerge from, thus causing you to crash or spin out in Grand Prix mode. By red shelling Bowser and then mushrooming off Bowser, Myles gets enough height as Yoshi to land inside the bat box. His description reads, "Hard to get in, even harder to get out." It doesn't really look like he tries very much to get out, and I would have loved to see him drive around within this tiny box, but it's certainly a funny clip and very obscure. Another rare Myles clip I love is this one, Checkered Roof, where he goes sideways on the Royal Raceway ramp in such a way that it boosts him onto the red checkered roof of the course. It's out of bounds, and so Lackey 2 replaces him down the track below, thus losing about half a lap. You know, he ends up warping from the ramp down well below it. And these sorts of out-of-bounds warps are fascinating things in Mario Kart 64, even if it causes you to lose progress. I just love how authentic this clip is. 18 seconds of exactly what it says, in the most underwhelming way possible. Checkered roof. You can just imagine if this was made today and put on YouTube, it would read something instead like, "I discovered something insane in Mario Kart." And so the banality of just checkered roof speaks to me in a way only something uploaded in the literal 2000s can speak to me. Funnily enough, getting up on this roof, or more like wall, would actually prove useful many years later. The current optimal skips speedrun of the game uses a technique to get up on the checkered wall near the start line, skipping a lap. So that's pretty neat. Alright, here's one more clip recorded in 1999, uploaded in 2008. Big jump on Royal Raceway. This one is just so awesome and funny, and actually he almost gets from the boost ramp all the way on top of the wall near the finish line. So you wonder if he could have inadvertently discovered the modern skip strategy all the way back then. The video is just such pure VHS analog nostalgia and really harkens back to my own childhood, just messing around in these games, seeing what you might find, and exploring these new and fantastical worlds. Let's talk about a couple of Myles' world records before moving on. He's credited with achieving 54 world records in his career, and all but 2 of them took place in the shortcut mode, which makes sense given his nature as sort of a glitch hunter and early achievement finder before those were even really things. Myles' oldest world record, for which there is still existing video, is Frappe Snowland shortcut fast lap of 540 performed in October 1999. It uses the shortcut strategy that most people conventionally would have known about playing the game back in the day. I mean, I suppose many folks didn't know of this shortcut back in the early 2000s, but it was probably the most well known after Rainbow Road and Wario Stadium. The VHS aesthetic here is just so nice and authentic, and it was only captured and uploaded to YouTube in 2008, because, you know, YouTube didn't exist in 1999, so there may have already been a few years of analog decay at hand in this video footage. His most recent world record was set in 2014 and also took place on Frappe Snowland shortcut fast lap. What a twist of fate. This time a 489 using more modern refinements. This would remain the world record for about 2 years until even further refinements brought it down, where it continues to be improved to this very day. Myles' penultimate record, however, was Yoshi Valley Fast Lap Shortcut 575, and this would remain the world record for a lot longer, nearly 8 years, being tied by 5 other karters, which is an incredible rarity in a game like Mario Kart, which rounds down to the hundredths of a second. It was finally beaten in 2021, but it shows how Myles truly set some amazing records which had an enduring legacy in the game of Mario Kart 64. Speaking of world records, this next fact is just completely bonkers in my opinion. Currently among Mario Kart 64's 32 world records in non-shortcut time trials, so fast lap and 3 lap on the 16 courses, of those 32 world records, only 2 men hold any of them at all, and it's still Matthias Roostmeyer and Dan Burbank. These 2 have been competing against each other and the game for the better part of a decade now, and it's amazing to see how they remain so dominant for so many years. There are many other great players at the top of the rankings who are only a few frames away from the world record on numerous stages, yet Matthias and Dan still reign atop the world record ranking with just enough separation to have all the world records on every course. Amazingly, the oldest world records held by either are on DK's Jungle Parkway, which was the site of a sort of final battle between the two back in 2018-19, when Matthias was attempting to hold all 32 world records at once. Dan's records in both fast lap and 3 laps still remain standing, the 3 lap time from New Year's Eve 2019 into 2020 being the oldest standing Mario Kart 64 non-shortcut world record.
This is really good. Unbelievable! Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh my god.
The next oldest world record appears to be Mario Raceway 3 Lap, another one of Dan's records, which was set in August 2020. Just one more reminder that they basically cycled through the entire game, lowering and improving the record on each stage over and over again in a matter of 2 to 3 years. And we can only wonder, will the same go for the next 2 to 3 years? When we look again at the Mario Kart world records in, say, 2027, will we see more Matthias and Dan dominance? Or will a new karter finally make his way to the pinnacle of Mario Kart 64 time trialing?
Yes! World record, untied. Oh god, there's so much pressure on these last MTs, because they have to be accurate.
Okay, so here's one which is kind of silly and irreverent, but hey, that's what you came for, isn't it? On Koopa Troopa Beach, we all know the shortcut where you go off this ramp into the tunnel, through the rock, and come out on the other side, skipping roughly half the course. It was programmed into the game, and it's an intended shortcut. It's just a true classic of this era. But have you ever stopped and looked to examine the area where you come out of the shortcut? Well, it's actually this beautiful, serene waterfall, a classic of N64 era architecture, and it's something I feel that has gone underappreciated over the years. That being said, something struck me as odd when thinking about this waterfall, mainly, where exactly is the water coming from? Koopa Troopa Beach is basically a shoreline around a large brown rock in the middle of the island. There's no further up area, way up in the mountains, from which water might flow. No lake or a river sourced in a mountain up there. It's just a magical waterfall flowing from nowhere. Or perhaps the taps of plenty. The kind of taps only something as magical as Mario Kart 64 can provide. It's funny to compare this to the waterfall outside of Peach's castle in Super Mario 64, which at least does leave something to the imagination as far as where the source of the water may be coming from. But on Koopa Troopa Beach, we simply know there can't really be a water source up there, unless there's some sort of artesian aquifer pumping up the ocean water towards the top of the rocky outcrop. Alright, I know I'm taking it a little bit too far, but I just want to reflect and share some thoughts about the amazing waterfall on Koopa Troopa Beach. Here's another funny waterfall thing. Speaking of that beautiful waterfall outside of Peach's castle in Super Mario 64, one of my favorite places in the game, I could just sit here and watch it all day, taking in the wonderful sights and sounds. But if we go into Mario Kart 64, outside Royal Raceway, the waterfall is just not there. My friends, where did the waterfall go? Alright, seriously, it was probably just removed for the sake of saving some in-game memory, not to mention the whole Peach's Castle thing is just an Easter egg unto itself, but it's funny to note. The only other waterfall in the game that I could find seems to be on DK's Jungle Parkway, and I love taking in the sights of this one too. I always just imagined what it might be to be a guest and travel along the riverboat, exploring and adventuring DK's Jungle Parkway. Let's revisit Banshee Boardwalk for a moment to discover an unused or unseen asset. Have you ever wondered about the sort of house you pass through on the boardwalk? It's pretty strange, and it isn't really laid out like someone's house. Rather, it's this just sort of rundown warehouse or something laid out on the boardwalk. Unfortunately, unlike Super Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time, you can't just sit there and press C up to get a first-person view of the course and look around. So there are lots of things which remain unseen in Mario Kart 64. One of them in particular is that some sections of the Banshee Boardwalk house actually have a roof. Check out this screenshot from the cutting room floor. It can only be seen in the credits by manipulating the in-game camera during the credits cutscene, but it's certainly interesting. And even though it almost certainly has no collision up there, I can't help but imagine what it would have been like to secretly get up there back in the day and drive around. Just the kind of thing we all love to do on so many other levels when the moment allowed for it. Pretty much everyone knows about the shortcut on Wario Stadium, being able to hop over the wall and get to the other side, skipping about half a lap, and then the more difficult follow-up by hopping back over. This makes the whole course beatable in less than 15 seconds, which is pretty insane. But did you know there are a number of other places where you can jump over the walls? Like, pretty much every single double-sided wall on the course is jumpable, allowing you to cut corners off the track and get to the other side. I love this one at the end of the long straightaway, jumping towards the end of the track and skipping the big jump area. Just a great way to throw off your friend who's holding onto that lightning he'll never get to use. But yeah, I remember playing around back in the day and finding so many funny places you could jump over, sometimes backwards to lose progress, but either way, it was always cool to see. Let's talk about the circuit courses for some fun facts, those being the ones that most closely resemble real-world racetrack type courses. Luigi's Raceway, Mario's Raceway, Royal Raceway, and to some extent, Wario Stadium. Luigi's Raceway features this video screen which purportedly tries to show a broadcast of the race or something like that as you're playing through, which is pretty cool and quite advanced for 1996. Though the feature just doesn't work in two-player mode. Wario Stadium has the same feature with a big screen at the end of the big straightaway, but interestingly, Mario's Raceway and Royal Raceway don't have it. Why not? It's just such a strange feature to have only been added for 2 courses and nowhere else in the game. But speaking of these courses, you'll notice that above the grandstands at the finish line, we can see the hat of the course's namesakes. Luigi's big green L hat, Mario's red M hat, and Princess Peach's royal crown. Interestingly, again however, there's no giant Wario hat anywhere to be found in Wario Stadium. Like, okay, he does appear on the side of the course, a little picture of his face, but that's not the same. I really wish there was Wario's massive hat somewhere in the stadium, and in my opinion, this is a huge missed opportunity. What's the worst you can do in a Grand Prix Cup tournament? Well, intuitively you might say last place, 8th place, but it's a much more complicated and interesting question than one might originally ponder. You see, the point distribution for a Grand Prix race, there are 4 total in each cup, is as follows: 9 for first, 6 for second, 3 for third, 1 for fourth, and 0 for fifth and below. You can only advance the next race by finishing 4th or better. It doesn't let you advance if not. So you're guaranteed 1 point per race, and that's at least 4 total points for the whole cup. The thing is, in each Grand Prix Cup, the game will randomly select 2 or 3 opponents who are going to be your main rivals and do well, usually finishing 1st or 2nd in all the races. And so if you come like 4th in most of the races, there will usually be one other racer who comes first in 2 or 3 or 4 of the races. And on the opposite hand, there are usually 3 to 4 dud opponents who will almost never finish in the top 4, never get any points, end up with 0, and thus you will beat them even with your measly 4 points when it comes to the overall Grand Prix standings. But not always. Check out this clip from longtime Mario Karter Jimbo. After years and years of trying, he manages to get just the right combination of results on the 4 races in such a way to finish dead last, 8th place in the Star Cup 150cc Grand Prix. I mean, just look at these results. Peach wins the whole cup with 15 points, meaning 1 victory and 1 second, or 2/3. Luigi and Wario have 12 points, so 1 victory and 1 third place each. 3 Carters tie at 9 points. One of them would have had to have won a race, while the other 2 had a combination of a second and a third. It's a pretty complex puzzle to piece all together and figure out the exact situation that resulted in this hilarious scenario. But we see Jimbo finishing in 8th place. And of course, we get the sweet reward of seeing the rare but funny cutscene where you get to go into the trophy ceremony only to be wheeled off by a bomb and detonated into the sky. It's a hilarious thought exercise turned into a real demonstration here as to the very worst you can do in a Grand Prix Cup race, and I just love seeing this ridiculous end screen, one that you literally cannot achieve unless you're trying to be as bad as possible.
That was so much harder than you would think to get 8th place.
So, there's about 20 minutes of obscure and useless Mario Kart 64 facts and lore. How many of these did you know? How many were truly stunning and utterly useless? Let me know your favorite in the comments. As always, a like on this video is always appreciated to help with the mystical algorithm. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on to make sure you never miss a new upload. And if you want to support the channel and my work even more, you can check out Speedlore on Patreon, where I post the most regular updates about the ongoing Speedlore series and occasional exclusive content. With all that being said, thanks for watching, stay true my friends, and I'll see you in the next stream or video.